What's up everyone, Art at Patience Metal Fab, and I'm coming outside into our parking lot to do a breakdown on a car that you should be well familiar with. It's the blue Papa Smurf Camaro. Now if you guys haven't seen the series for this one, I'm going to put a link up here so you can check it out. And otherwise we're going to spend about 15 or 20 minutes going around the car and giving you all of the ins and outs of what's made it into a competitive race car. You can hear it fire up right now. Gary's going to get it out here and then he's going to give us the breakdown on this one. Gary, this is feeling a little deja vu-ish, not just because we had a red ZL1 race car that we built last year, but because we've already recorded this breakdown once, but because of our camera technology, the speaker in particular, we did not get it. So we should be twice as good this time.
It's that high quality GoPro stuff, you know?
It happens to the best of us. So what I want to do is start with the exterior of this car and just kind of describe what we see and then get a little bit more in depth. If you guys have been watching along on our page, you know there's a full series on the buildup of this. You also know this is just sort of stage one of the race car build. Even though it looks complete, there's still a lot yet to be done on this one. So why don't we start with the obvious stuff? I see lots of carbon. Let's go with that.
Yeah, Anderson Composites. They actually got on board with Nick's program this year, and the cool thing about them is they've got quite an array of components for this car. You can see the doors. We do cut them down so you can actually get out of these cars with a helmet. The window lines are real small. It's hard to get in and out. A lot of helmets don't clear, so we do cut those. Otherwise, these are on pretty much the way they come out of the box. We got hood, splitter, canards. And this is a pretty impressive piece right here. The grill piece.
It's really hard to lay this carbon like this. I mean, on a flat piece, that's one thing. The hood, even though this is a pretty complicated hood.
You're saying they're not complicated. They are.
Probably a lot easier than all this intricacy.
Yep, that speaks to their quality. I mean, this thing actually snapped right in. A lot of times when you get into carbon parts, they don't fit at all. So something that's that intricate and snaps into the bumper like that, pretty impressed.
And then we've got a PMF piece right there. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, this was a real hit after the red one, was getting rid of the old the big bar that's in there from the factory, going to just a piece of DOM. In this case, this one's chromoly, but opens up some space, allows for mounting of additional coolers, which is kind of the next chapter in this car's adventure. But it also gives us good mounting for tow hooks. On Dustin's car, he opted for a threaded in strapped hook. This one, Nick likes having 2 points to actually tie the car down in the trailer, so he actually just integrated hooks straight into the bar itself.
One of the big things that we always get asked about on these Camaros is why replace the giant OEM Brembos with a setup like this AP Racing and Essex kit. Gary, can you explain why this is such a benefit?
A, you get rid of about 25 pounds unsprung weight per axle. That's huge. B, these calipers will do everything and more than the big giant factory ones will, hence the reason you get rid of the weight. Plus, these use a real common pad shape, so there's dozens of options for brake pads out there. Plus, I mean, AP just makes good stuff. Walk through the pits at IMSA or something, you see these all over the place. AP makes real nice stuff. One thing you will notice on these is we do have a temperature sticker on that caliper, and that is because as Nick has gotten faster, we continually talk about building these cars in stages. You start with the safety, you get them out there driving. As they get faster, then that warrants the additional steps on the car. In this case, he got faster. That means the brakes did more work. Recently out, we saw some brake temps up in excess of 650 degrees, which starts to push the capabilities of the fluids. We do run AP's fluid in this. It wasn't a factor of it boiling, but it did kill the master cylinder in this car, which we also recently replaced. So to deal with that, we got rid of the factory brake, we'll call them suggestive ducting, which just kind of pointed the airflow in the right direction. We now have a set of real ducts on this, pushed right into the back of the rotor, where you're gonna put fresh air on the back side of it, distribute it out.
And then obviously these forge lines too, big weight savings.
Yep, weight savings, and something that just instills confidence. Cheap wheels, they break. A broken wheel, that'll end your day, your career, your life. I mean, it's just not worth cheap wheels. You see them break at the track and they wind up causing accidents. Forge line, we can get these made in any sizes we want, and they're reliable. You know, they're gonna work.
And they match the car, which I know Nick's worried about.
Yes, they do.
One of the biggest pieces of safety and fabrication is inside the car. That is the roll cage. You can see how intricate this is with the door bars and how the door cards are cut out in order to be able to fit that. So Gary, can you give us the breakdown on this cage? It's not the first one like this we've done, right?
Nope, this is actually the same design as Dustin's and the red Camaro. We've got a couple refinements to this one that we've done. Just more for our ease of building than anything as far as users would ever know. It is a ship in a bottle, so sometimes you work yourself into a corner, you gotta, you know, struggle through to get a weld completed. When you do the next version, you either change up your order or you make an access point somewhere. So that's kind of what comes from doing a cage in multiple cars. It is 1 3/4 120 wall, because this car is in excess of 3,500 pounds. So it adds a little weight to the car over like an 095, but this is what the requirements are for NASA, so that's what this one's made out of. The common point that you see in all the cars we build, race decks. I don't use another seat anymore because these are the absolute best thing on the market that we've found. Nobody else builds the integrated seat back supports. Not only does it keep the seat anchored better for safety, but you know, you drive a race car from your ass. That's why these things need to be planted. You drive it, it feels good, you feel the car, it works better. Love these seats, love their systems. The harnesses are comfortable. Only ones we use for that reason. Window nets, gotta run them. Keep those hands inside the car if the car winds up upside down.
And on the conversation of safety, I know there's a fire suppression system in here. It's pretty tucked in. Can you show us where the control is?
Yep, this is Lifeline's system. It's an electronic system, full FIA, it's Novak. Allows for just push button activation of the system instead of having a mechanical. We've got one on the A-pillar over there, so that first responder on the car would be able to reach that. There's also another one right on the center there. Don't mix that up with the start button or you're gonna take a bath.
It's a pretty snug fit in here. That's because we have all the safety equipment plus all of these electronics. So why don't we break down what these do? See a lot of AIM stuff.
We got AIM, we got Tractive, we touched on the Lifeline stuff. A lot of additions to the car to make them work. Tractive is the electronic suspension system. I know there's an episode on that. We won't go too deep into that right now, but it's been awesome. Nick has thoroughly enjoyed using that system. It's something that lets him fine-tune the suspension versus having to have, you know, a suspension engineer on hand or, you know, one more thing to learn. He just wants to drive the car. Next piece is the AIM. Critical on data logging and information to make a driver faster. Super cool what you can do with just basic data logging functions. This thing runs a solo data logger and the camera system. That's all it takes. Some guys go nuts, they do the dash, the PDMs. Eventually this car will get there when we get rid of all the electronics and really strip this thing down. But for now, all you really need is the track, the lap times, the GPS stuff, and then the ECU information that we're able to get from that Solo 2, overlay to video. His coach is able to go over this stuff with him after every time he comes off the track.
And it also makes for better media because in the last episode, I was actually able to grab some footage off of that and overlay it into the video so you can see him driving in real time, which is always awesome. That's a perspective most don't get to see. The other star of the show has got to be the wing. Obviously, we've got the carbon trunk from Anderson Composites and then the wing from G-Stream. What of this is custom? What have we made?
So the wing is a universal part. Everything else we've made. The wing actually comes with a regular underwing mount. So we cut this wing open and did inserts epoxied into it to actually allow for a true swan neck setup. Got together with Nextrev, came up with a final system for mounting wings tied to the chassis, but does not require you to take a deck lid off or pin in a deck lid or, you know, have multiple pieces to it. This still works like a trunk mounted wing in that when you open it, uprights stay on the wing, but yet it works like a chassis mounted wing as well, where they are tied into stanchions below that actually put the force on the chassis.
And for something like that, it's easier done than said. You just got to pull the pins and it all lifts up. And if you guys want a more thorough, detailed description of how this works, in the last video, we talked about it for probably 10 minutes straight at the track, and I cut it down into a nice segment. So I'll put the link up here. You guys can check that out. But for now, why don't we pull those pins and get it up so people can see if they haven't. And there you go. It almost looks like a normal trunk mounted wing, but these stanchions right here are all the way down on the frame rails, and they are super solid. So all of that pressure and weight that you're seeing from the air going through isn't actually bending the trunk, it's going through the entire car. Although there seems like there's a lot done here, I did mention this is kind of stage 1. So when we enter stage 2, my assumption is we're gonna do probably a fuel cell back here. I think you mentioned maybe a custom exhaust.
Yeah, we got fuel cell, we got exhaust to do, we got, there's a handful of items that we'll get to do on this thing. And it really is development as the driver gets faster, making it so the car is not the limitation. Things like the fuel cell, that's really going to address the slosh aspect that he'll see as he can push power through this thing for an entire 35-minute sprint. He's going to wind up burning the fuel all the way up, and that saddle tank's not going to cut it anymore. We do kind of make fun of this one. It's got a stock exhaust on it. We call it the EV Camaro. You can barely hear it running. We definitely want to address that. A, for power, and B, those cats under in the location they're at are putting a lot of heat. A, in the floorboards, B, just in the engine compartment as a whole. On that heat topic, these cars make power. They make heat even better than they make power. So we are going to be going to the AFCO triple cooler setup on the front of this. That'll replace both the side coolers on it and the intercooler. That'll bring temp down with the engine and the supercharger. Then we're going to divorce the cooling system on this because it's all integrated into one big system. The tranny, the diff, the intercooler, it's all, we're going to completely divorce them. Separate coolers for everything, a couple pumps. That'll be kind of cool. And then we can move inside the car. One of the next things, and absolutely next things, are going to be a radio on this. He's running without a radio right now. I think we're going to go long range system because the basic systems don't work very well at his home track down in Ozarks. So we'll be going to that. And the final thing will be some creature comforts for him. Like the Fluid Logic hydration system for the driver, as well as a cool suit so he's not out there sweating so bad. But, you know, you got to make him work in his first season. Let him get hot.
Well, that does it for the breakdown on this ZL1 Camaro. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you haven't caught up with the rest of the episodes in the series, I'll have a link in the description so you can. And then this isn't the last of this car. You guys are going to see it get picked up probably in a couple of months when we start doing more modifications to it, or at least in the off season. So he's got a race up in Brainerd, or kind of a test and tune day, and then he's going to be in the Ozarks a couple weekends from now to really compete with it. So we can always do updates on our Instagram and our Facebook. If you're not following those, make sure to subscribe, and you'll see many more videos of this coming eventually on our YouTube page as well. So thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.